Folks, I know a lot of you trade options, and I know for a lot of you, options can be difficult. Why? Because you have all these Greek terms, vega, theta, delta. It can get complicated. Implied volatility, historic volatility. So what am I going to do? I'm going to demystify for you three parts: historic volatility, implied volatility, and delta. I'll explain how they all work together, and I'll make it really simple for you to understand how to read all of this, the value in it, the importance of it, the relevance. So we're going to go through all of these three: historic volatility, implied volatility, and delta, and then I'll put it all together for you, all right? In the first video, I want to talk about historic volatility. And this is a big confusion point for a lot of traders, especially beginners, because you'll read an option guide and they'll say, hey, compare historic volatility with implied volatility. If you don't know your historic volatility or implied volatility, you're going to overpay for the option, or you're not going to get fair value. And a lot of traders are thinking to themselves, what is historic volatility? What is implied volatility? What is delta? How do I make sense out of all of this? It can get hairy and confusing. But here's the funny part. Once you understand it, once you understand historic volatility, implied volatility, and delta, it's simple. It's super simple. So let's get into historic volatility. And the first thing I'm going to tell you about historic volatility is it has nothing to do with options. Isn't that something? We're learning historic volatility because we want to price options, and here I am telling you that historic volatility has nothing to do with the price of the option. It gets even better. Let me give you a good round understanding of how it all works. Let's say a stock is priced at $100 a share, all right? And let's say it's a volatile stock. And let's say every day the stock trading range, the trading range is, let's say, $5 on average, all right? So the stock goes from 95 to 100 on day one, from 97 to 102, back to 96, 101, and back to 95, 100. So every day, more or less, it fluctuates $5, okay? So the historic volatility of that option would be, or historic volatility of that stock, excuse me, again, I'm talking about options. The historic volatility of that stock is $5. Now, you may be asking yourself, why am I always hearing historic volatility in the context of options? Well, here's why. Let's say you're an options trader, okay? And let's say that the option you're looking at, okay, costs $2 or $200 per contract, because every option you have to multiply by 100 because options are sold per contract and each contract has 100 shares equivalent. So it's $2 times 100 equals $200 per contract. All right? Let me make it clear here. $200 per contract, okay? Now let's say, for example, let's say that all of a sudden some news comes out on the stock. And let's say the stock starts moving, instead of $5 a day, let's say the stock now starts moving $10 a day. All right? Well, if the stock starts moving $10 a day, and we're not talking about direction, let's just say it's not going anywhere. It's still sticking around the $100 range, but now it's moving $10 a day. Well, that tells options traders that the odds of this option, this $200 option, increasing in value or decreasing in value is now twice as much, because before it was moving $5, now it's moving $10 a day. So now the historic volatility is $10, okay? And again, we'll get into the option part first. We'll get into the option part next. But for right now, what you need to know is that the historic volatility, whenever you hear historic volatility, it has nothing to do with the option. It has everything to do with the price of the underlying asset and its historic volatility level. I'll get into in the next video how historic volatility works with implied volatility, but for now, what you need to know is that historic volatility is simply the trading range of the stock that you're looking at the options for. So you look at the historic volatility of the stock, and that gives you the historic volatility. It has nothing to do with the option, believe it or not. But implied volatility does. And in the next video, I'll explain implied volatility, and I'll explain the relationship between implied volatility and historic volatility. But what you need to know is, if somebody talks and says to you, do you know the historic volatility of this option? There's no such thing. There's historic volatility of the underlying asset for which the option is being used for. So historic volatility, we're still talking about the stock. Implied volatility, we're going to start talking about the option, and that's coming up in the next video. And folks, if you're enjoying these videos, if you're getting something out of them, please like them. Thanks, and we'll see you in just a few minutes in the next video.